Welcome back to the program. This is Capital Market, and it is reaching your way from Channels Television from the financial capital of Nigeria, Lagos City. Now let's go on with the Green Bonds initiative that is now on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. The Green Bond program of the Nigerian government means a lot to the pioneer exchange in Nigeria. And in his words, the chief executive, Mr. Oscar Onyema, says the brokerage community of the NSE will harness the best of the bond's potentials with the 7 million investors on the platform. Let's listen.
I must say that we're very excited about the progress that has been made since we made the initial proposal to the Honorable Minister of the Environment that we need to really think about financing some of the green initiatives and some of the general initiatives that are being done by the government in such a way that it takes into consideration sustainability and the environment. She moved that proposal forward, and there's been a lot of work in the background to establish the enabling framework that will allow us to have the first sovereign issuance. And that issuance, once it's done, would also open the window for subnationals and corporates to begin to issue green bonds based on the green principles. So as you know, we're the premier listing destination for both equities and bonds in Nigeria. All federal government bonds are listed here on the exchange, in addition to corporates and subnationals. So we do not tend to trade things that are not listed on the exchange. That is why we're a proper exchange. And the brokerage community will support this product by making sure that their clients, both institutional and retail, are able to access this product when it comes to market. And not just for the federal government, but all the other issuers. So there's a solid network of investors. As you know, we have about 7 million investors today in our system, and we're working very hard to increase that number exponentially. The bond itself is like any other bond, except that it has to meet the test for being green. So from a perspective of use of proceeds, management of proceeds, continuous reporting, and the like. So we think that because of the way the green bond industry is growing generally across the world, it really gives us an opportunity to establish ourselves as a thought leader in this space, and indeed to be a role model for the rest of Africa, because this is the first sovereign green bond that will be listed in Africa. So the target is to get the bond listed by the end of first quarter of this year. The initial amount that was put out there is about 20 billion naira. It might be more depending on the projects. You will hear about some of the projects at the conference today that are being evaluated to make sure that they meet the green bond principles. So it's going to be something that is left to the issuer to decide in terms of how much they want.
That's Oscar Onyema, the chief executive of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Now, you must have heard it on some of our sister programs, especially from the vice president or the acting president himself, as well as other regulators that have spoken, that this is the very first sovereign green bonds to be listed in the whole of Africa. And of course, being the first of its kind in the continent, it's going to be a test of competence for the Nigerian capital market regulators. Now, let's listen to what the regulators from the Securities and Exchange Commission and the Debt Management Office have to say about guidelines for this exercise.
This is a panel on transparency.
So this issue will be very, very formalized. There will be a prospectus according to capital market standards. And of course, as you know, the prospectus will contain all the essential information that are required, particularly emphasizing those elements that make it to be green, which will enable it to be certified by the relevant authorities as green. So let us remind ourselves that green bonds are certified as such. So if they are not certified, they are not green bonds. So the fact that they be certified by relevant authorities assures you that they are green indeed. So the projects will be appropriately selected. In terms of the use of the proceeds, again, it will be specified in the prospectus, but more importantly, the nature of green bonds, the guidelines for green bonds, the framework for green bonds are such that the issues of transparency, the issue of use of proceeds, the issue of reporting, monitoring and evaluation are very, very important. And these are specified in the guidelines. And it's only when these are in place that the bond will be certified as being green. So you can be sure that on the issue of use of proceeds, there has been a serious ring fencing around that. That's one thing that makes green bonds attractive, the fact that the issue of use of proceeds are very ring-fenced, they are very specific. So they are better than conventional bonds in that respect. On the issue of competitive pricing, yes, that's the point I made before. We have been used to all sorts of bonds, local and foreign. So we should be able to easily know where to situate the green bond in terms of pricing. So you can be sure working with all the parties, including the capital market operators, we should be able to know the right pricing for the bond.
Normally review and profile, the assets. So it's like a kind of two-way approach. You can have for corporate or other issuers other than the FGN, for instance. When we have the framework should clearly state this enhanced disclosure. And other parties that need to be, involved in the transaction in terms of giving it that transparency that we're looking at should be, looked at so that we can now have a holistic package. When you are coming with a green bond, we now have a list of parties that, like additional parties that will now enhance that packaging. Then, in addition to that, when you look at other jurisdictions, I think India, Brazil, and China. Brazil has a very good framework, and that one even talk about even this green rating, which means the kind of rating that we're going to look at. If you are coming with a green bond, like for instance for a corporate, the rating has to be enhanced towards addressing those critical elements. I think these are really issues that will be contained in the framework, and which I believe at the end of it will be exposed to the market, will get comments, and then it will eventually be made a rule. And I can see, why can't we have agencies like, an agency of government, let's say FCT Investment Company, for instance, coming up with a green bond program. Why can't we have states, for instance, looking at this general obligation bond, distilling this aspect of green initiatives, then coming up with a program. Then we can now have all package, and it will now be cascaded down to other corporates and other supranational. I think for me, it's an open, window, which all of us collectively as a market need to see that we promote.
And those are the two major regulators we have in the Nigerian capital market. But that will be a very good point to end the program this evening. Thank you for watching. I'm Temple Ashaju, and I'll see you again next time.